Right. So now we are off to start the lesson. So this is lesson 25 on religion, and this is the individual country report for the lesson. Okay, and so in the lesson module, I have here the link to the family school lesson 25. This is a really interesting lesson. It has a lot of information about Heber C. Kimball and some of the early missionaries of the church and how they started off going on missions to Europe, especially. At the beginning of the church, they were leaving the church, leaving the kind of the headquarters of the church, be it Palmyra or Curland or Nauvoo, and then going to some of the states around. But later on, they started going to Europe very early on, frankly. Okay, and so the family school lesson has here some really cool stories and videos linking to that. I have here a link to a video of the church where Heber C. Kimball and Brigham Young leave for a mission to Europe. Okay, a very moving story. And I remember when I was a missionary in Argentina, one of the things that I did was I checked out from the mission home one of the volumes of history of the church. I think that it was volume 5 or volume 6 of history of the church, and it had there the accounts written by Heber C. Kimball and Parley P. Pratt and Wilford Woodruff on the missions that they did in Europe. Okay, so really very important information about their own accounts of how they went on their missions to Europe. I also remember reading the account of John Taylor, who was one of the 12 apostles, and he was set apart with a special mission to go to the land of Israel, to Jerusalem, to dedicate the land for the gathering of the people of Israel. Okay, so am I still being frozen? Do I freeze often like in other times? Okay, just let me know through the chat if I get frozen often. Okay, so only once in a while, occasionally, but it's not too bad. All right, I hope that is not that bad. I hope that is not as bad as in the previous ones. Oh. The websites that I have here in the lesson, there are some links to a site in Wikipedia, the religions in Europe. We are going to talk about that website. There's also another website that has maps about religion in Europe. And then I have a link to a website of the church history department of the church, where they have a series of lectures on pioneers in every land. Very, very interesting website that we are going to see. And then a talk by Elder Oaks on standing as witnesses of God. All right, talking about religious freedom and our need to stand for religious freedom nowadays. Okay. Next in the lesson, I have here 3 very important questions for you to think about and ponder. Okay. This is where you get the material of the lesson, and then you ask yourself these questions, trying to really think about it and apply what you have learned in the lesson to answer these questions. For the assignments, I have 2 assignments. The optional activity would be to research the history of the church in the country that you are studying. Okay? So you can find information in LDS.org or books or members of the church from that country, or even maybe returned missionaries that have served in that country, okay? But I want you to learn something about the history of the church in the country that you are studying. For example, let me see if we go here. This is what I did. I went to lds.org, okay, and I put on the search history of the church in Italy, okay. So, and we can use yeah. So yes, you can use descriptions also for that. So here, for example, Emma, I have some information about history of the church in Italy. And there's one article, okay, in the Ensign of 1982, Early Missionary Work in Italy and Switzerland. Beautiful, beautiful article explaining how the church started in that area and so on. Then there's another article, more recent, June 2014, part of this series of Pioneers in Every Land, Latter-day Saints in Italy, A Legacy of Faith, okay? And so you can really study of that, and I think that you can do, really search for every country, any country that you want, okay? So yeah, that is great. So this is the website on the church history department site. There's a lecture series, Pioneers in Every Land, and so they started with this lecture series. There's the last one that they did just last week was about the history of the church in India. Okay, so imagine in India has 1.2 billion people, about 1/6 of the population of the world. We have 11,000 members of the church. Okay, so true pioneers in that area. Okay, and then there's going to be more articles coming up during the year. I really am looking forward to this one on June, Prophecies Precede History. Nestor Curvelo, the person that is going to give this lecture about the history of the church in Latin American countries, he was my stake president right when I was finishing my mission. And before I came here to the States, he was my stake president, and he was a good man that I know very well. Okay, I was very good friends with him, so I'm really looking forward to that. Okay, so you can do this really for any of the countries that you are studying. So that would be if you choose to do this optional activity. If you do the required assignment, which is required, okay, the assignment is basically a little different from the other country reports, okay, and here I thought that it would be very interesting to do something like this, to imagine that you are visiting the country that you have selected, okay, and you are talking with a local friend, all right. And this friend belongs to this country's prevailing religion, all right? And so your friend asks you, you are a Mormon, aren't you? What are the main differences between my church and your church? Are there any similarities? All right? And so what I'm asking you to do is to write a 4-page dialogue story. And you can put, descriptions, you can do it as however you want. But what I want you is to have kind of an imaginative dialogue between your friend and you, answering his or her questions about the differences and the similarities between the different religions. Okay? So, does that make sense? Okay? So, and it's about one of the country, whichever country in Europe that you have selected to study. Okay, this assignment actually came about actually from an experience that I had when I was probably, I don't know, about 12, 13 years old. I remember one of my friends, one time she asked me, so what is the difference between your church and my church? Okay. And I started, talking to her and explaining this and that and everything. And it was a great, great experience. I probably bore her to death. Okay. I wasn't very, very good at doing a dialogue. All right. As you may have experienced also, I tend to talk quite a bit. Okay. And so, I probably talk too much to her, all right? But what I want you is really to learn enough about this other church, the prevailing church in the country that you are studying, and your own church in order for you to understand what are the differences and the similarities. So we will have this conversation in English. Okay, so of course that in the country that you are studying, probably they don't speak English in Europe, in Ukraine or some other countries. But let's suppose that this friend of yours knows English well, and so the dialogue occurs in English. All right. Okay, excellent. So Annika says, I just have a pretty good idea of how it will go. All right, excellent. Good deal. So let's see what are some of the things that we have here. So this is the map of Europe. Heber C. Kimball. Do you know anything about Heber C. Kimball? Have you heard of him before? Rodney says yes. Emma says yes. Okay. All right. You can tell me about it.
Wasn't he an apostle during Joseph Smith's time?
That's correct. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The name is familiar, says Haley. That is true.
Was Heber C. Kimball the prophet related to this Heber C. Kimball?
Sorry, I couldn't understand that
question. Is this Heber C. Kimball related
to Spencer? Spencer?
Is this Heber C. Spencer W. Kimball?
Yes. Yes. That is correct. So Heber C. Kimball was, I believe that it is a great uncle of Spencer W. Kimball. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Heber C. Kimball was one. Yeah, I got also half of that one. Okay. So Heber C. Kimball was in the Quorum of the 12 and in the first presidency. He was the first counselor to which prophet? Emma, or anyone else?
Brigham Young?
To Brigham Young, yes, that's correct. So he was one of the original 12 apostles, and he became the first counselor to Brigham Young. So he was one of the pioneers. He led several companies of pioneers across the plains to establish here in Utah. Okay, but early on, when he was young, he was called to serve a mission, and here there's a beautiful video. I don't know if I want to have you look the video here online on the class, but it's linked in the lesson. Okay, is this video here? Heber C. Kimball and Brigham Young is 7 minutes long, and it's a beautiful video about how Heber C. Kimball was called on missions and how the sacrifices that he made, leaving his family and children, his wife and his children, in very difficult circumstances in order to go and serve. Yeah, Annika says they were really good friends. Heber C. Kimball and Brigham Young were very good friends and fiercely loyal to Joseph Smith. That is true. One of the things that I learned really when I was studying this, the history of the church and the missions and how they served these apostles in their early missions to Europe, was that was a defining moment for them. It really helped them to learn how to lead the church, okay, how to follow the direction of the leaders of the church, and also how to follow the Spirit. Many important spiritual experiences that they share, having taken the call to serve as missionaries. And it's interesting, one of the things that I found really interesting was that during this mission, when they went to Europe, and they went in 1839, okay, so as early as 1838 to 1840, okay, Brigham Young was there for about a year, so he came back in 1839. But Brigham Young really led the missionary effort, how we would call now a mission president, okay, or an area president in our time. But it is interesting because the lessons of leadership that Brigham Young learned while he was serving with his fellow apostles in Europe was what was needed and really important for leading the church after Joseph Smith was assassinated. Okay, so when Joseph Smith was assassinated, Brigham Young was not new to leading the church, okay, because he had learned to lead the church and lead the 12 apostles in their missionary work in Europe, okay. So Annika says he was a really great leader. It's true, and he learned most of his leadership lessons while he was serving in this mission in Europe under very difficult circumstances of how they left. Okay, so I want you to look at this video. Let me see. Let's go and see at least one part. Okay, of that the very end. Right. Let's see. So this is in 1839. This is Heber C. Kimball, and this is Brigham Young, as they are ready to go and live on their missions to Europe, and they are both sick with malaria, very sick. They had to be carried up, okay, into a wagon in order to be able to depart. Okay, they were taking them from their home, okay, to the river in order to take a boat that would take them down to Missouri and then the Ohio River on their way to New York.
It's tough, isn't it? Let's rise up and give them a cheer.
Their wives were also sick.
Hurrah for Israel!
God bless you.
God bless you. Goodbye. Let's go. After this, I felt a spirit of joy and gratitude at having the satisfaction of seeing my wife standing upon her feet instead of leaving her in bed, knowing as I did that I should not see them again for 2 or more years.
Those who seek to bring about Zion must do as Heber C. Kimball did. Give the Lord their heart and a willing mind.
Okay, so that is, part of that video. I really want you to watch the whole thing. I think that you will find it very, very inspiring and very, very cool, really. No guarantees that they would ever see their families again, okay, but they were willing, to go even when they were sick. Yeah, Annika says they made the effort to stand so their families would not worry quite so much. No, they were not being taken to jail. They were actually being taken to the boat, okay, in order to go on their missions, and they left with nothing. Brigham Young said in that moment that he left without even a coat. He was later on given a coat in New York by someone, all right? And they went even though they were sick with malaria, all right? So lots of faith, really. That is really how they demonstrated their faith in God, and their families were also sick. Most of everyone in their families, their wives were sick. I also remember reading that when Brigham Young left, okay, the prophet told him that he would take care of his family. All right. Well, the prophet Joseph Smith, because of different problems that he had himself and everything, he really couldn't do much to take care of Brigham Young's family. And when Brigham Young came back from his mission, he found that his family was basically totally destitute. They didn't have anything. Their family was living in a lean-to that it was basically just you have a house and then they put some pieces of wood and branches and everything, and they live kind of in a little huddle underneath the side of a house. Okay, that was all that they had. And the prophet really couldn't provide for them or anything. They were absolutely poor. When Brigham Young came back and he found his family in those conditions, what do you think that he did? What would you do?
I'm not as tough as Brigham Young, but I know he would probably get straight to work taking care of his family and fulfilling his fatherly duties. He probably didn't blame anyone.
He didn't blame anyone. He didn't even talk to Joseph Smith about it. He got to work and started building a brick home for his family with his own hands. Okay. So really, really something. Mind you, a brick home that he built, and then just 6 years later, they had to leave again to go back onto a wagon. Okay. So Really, really something. I always think about these things and think how would I react under these circumstances? What would I do? Okay, so I hope that I remember Brigham Young's example on that, on all these things. Very, very important examples. All right, so here I show you how to look for articles about the history of the church in different countries. Yeah, and so I want you to try to look on that history of the church, let's say on Sweden. Okay, so we have also articles about that. Okay, so probably every country, especially the European countries, you can find resources about that. Okay, so let me see. We have, okay, I found also, let me go here first to this part. I was looking at the different articles on religions in Europe. Okay, so I found this article. This is not up to date completely, but it's pretty good. So religion in the European Union, and so we have this pie chart that looks at the main religions in the European Union, and we have 48% Roman Catholic, okay, 12% Protestant, 8% Orthodox, 4% other Christians, okay, and that would probably include also the Mormons, okay. So here we have that probably about, 70% of Europe is basically of Christian denominations. But see this part of the pie, 16% non-believer, agnostic, and 7% atheism, and 2% Muslim. Now, which is the fastest growing segment of this pie chart in Europe nowadays?
Atheism.
Hmm?
Atheism.
Yeah, atheism. Yeah. Catholicism is actually, not in the chart, okay, but which one is the one that is growing the fastest? Okay. So atheism is the one that is growing the fastest. So it's a big, big problem in Europe. Okay. So of course Catholics still are the majority, but the ones that are growing is atheism. And Annika says it seems like all over the world now. That is true. And atheism is really as much a religion as any other religion, and needs to be really seen as that. What would be the next fastest growing religion in Europe? What is the second, if you wish, fastest growing religion in Europe? Mm-hmm. So it says, Emma says, things like atheism and those without belief really get me excited because of the missionary opportunities. Mm-hmm. Sabrina says, Mormon? Okay. Not really. In Europe, that is not the case. Mm-hmm. Emma, the problem is that atheism and those who don't believe in religion, sometimes they are good missionary opportunities, of course, but sometimes also it's very, very hard to reach them. One of the problems is a lot of people, especially in Europe, they just don't want anything to do with religion. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they are sometimes the ones that are so against being even willing to discuss things about religion. They discount it. They think that it's not important at all, and so on. So the second largest religion actually in Europe is Islam. Okay, so this 2% here of the pie is actually the one that is growing the fastest. Okay, besides atheism and agnostics. All right, and the reason for that is mainly there's two main reasons why Islam is growing so fast in Europe. What do you think would be the two reasons of why Islam is growing so fast in Europe? Absolutely right. Sabrina has and Alex have it right. They are immigrating and breeding. Haley says Islamic people are moving there. That's right. So immigration and birth rate. So the Islamic population is moving into Europe. They have been moving into Europe from Northern Africa, Turkey, and other areas in the Middle East, and they have large families. Okay, Annika says, move and multiply. Yes, instead of, yeah, that's absolutely right. Okay, so in fact, remember when we were talking about the population lesson in Europe and how we were saying that many of the countries of Europe have a negative, growth rate, okay, or they have a very, very, very low population growth rate that is below even the replacement factor, and that is even worse if you take out the Muslim population, because the Muslim population actually has a very healthy and positive birth rate, but if you take that population out and you consider the birth rate and the growth rate of the population just of the European locals on several countries, is absolutely bad. Okay, so I remember someone once said that the future, let me see, the future belongs to those who show up. Okay, I think that it was Mark Steyn, a Canadian commentary, that says the future belongs to those who show up. Okay, and those who show up are those who have large families. So that is really who are going to control the future, if you know, unless something different happen. Okay, so in this article it's talking about the different churches in Europe, and mainly the focus of the article is about how atheism and agnosticism are really gaining the upper hand. So Europe is being basically secularized, all right? So there's a secularization of Europe, where the state and many organizations in the European Union are basically very supportive of atheism and agnosticism instead of supporting other religions, other churches. Okay, so that is very interesting. Here we have, let me go to this other website that has different maps of the religions in Europe. So this is kind of the prevailing religion by country. This is a map showing the percentage of the population that has a belief in God in the different countries. Yeah. So there are many different cultural things, cultural aspects that affect really how the population grows and believes. Turkey certainly looks good as far as belief in God. This is a prevailing Islamic country. So which are the countries with the highest belief in God? You have Turkey, all right, here Romania, Poland, and Portugal, and then Malta. You know, it doesn't show very well here, and Cyprus. Cyprus is this island here. Okay, so this is another question, all right? People who believe there is some sort of spirit or life force excluding belief in God, okay, by country. So these are countries that believe on something spiritual but not necessarily in God. And here you have Sweden, Latvia, and Austria as the main countries on that. And people who believe there isn't any sort of God, spirit, of life force by country. Okay, well, there's nothing, okay? France, Austria, and Sweden, and Estonia are the ones with the largest percentages on that. Okay, very interesting. So here you have another chart by country on belief in God, belief in spirit, and no belief at all. All right, in anything. You can see this as you study that in more detail. I know that here is probably very difficult to see it in this in the web chart. Natasha says, my friend's father believes there isn't a God. Yeah, so there are several people. That would be either an atheist or an agnostic. Okay. Lily says, what was the tan for? In which map? Here, this tan. Okay. So I guess that the tan is in countries where no one believes in that, or is basically not part of the responses in this. Oh, so probably these are countries that were excluded from this survey. They are not included in the survey. This is showing the percent of Islam by percentage of population by country. Okay, and so of the European countries, the ones that have the highest percentage, you have here Albania, a predominantly Muslim country, then Kosovo, Macedonia, and Bosnia-Herzegovina. All right, so those are the countries with the highest percentage of Islamic population, but the ones that have the highest numbers of Muslims are France, Germany, and the UK. All right, so very, very interesting. And then the number of Jewish people by country. All right. Now, Jewish people are very few. If you think about it, I think that in Europe there's probably. Let me see if I go here to the Wikipedia article. I think that there's part on Judaism. Okay. I thought that I had read somewhere in this one. Okay, so here, Judaism. So before World War II, the population of Jews in Europe was 5.3 million, but was largely exterminated by the Germans. Okay, and in 2002, the European Union had a Jewish population barely over 1 million. Okay, so barely over 1 million. And now there's actually less. All right, because a lot of Jewish people have migrated to Israel. So I don't know that there is that has grown quite that much. So very small the numbers of Jewish people. Okay. This one, Catholicism by percentage of population by country, and so we see what are the countries that are mostly Catholics. You see Ireland, Portugal, Spain, Italy, of course, okay, Croatia, Poland, and this one is not Lithuania. This one is Lithuania, if I'm correct. Okay, and then the main centers of Protestantism in Europe. You have Germany, Netherlands, the United Kingdom, Sweden, Norway. Okay, and then this one is very interesting, weekly church attendance by country. Okay, so weekly church attendance. Yeah, Portugal and Ireland are heavily Catholic countries. Okay. So in Italy, actually, the Roman Catholic Church is not the state religion. Okay. So let me see. I think that here in this article in Wikipedia, let me see if I can find that place. So it says, of the unions, so in the European unions, of the union's 28 states, only 4 have an official state religion. And those are Denmark, the Church of Denmark, Greece, the Church of Greece, Malta, Roman Catholic Church, and England in the United Kingdom, the Church of England. Okay, but Italy, even though the Vatican is there and it's actually a separate country, the Vatican is not, Catholicism is not the state religion, okay, of Italy. The same like it is not the state religion of Portugal, of Poland, or Ireland, even though they have, you know, very high concentration of Catholics, is not the state religion there. This one I find very interesting. Is talking about weekly church attendance by country. The dark green is more than 30%. The next green is between 15 and 30%. Let's see if this enlarges somewhat. Okay. All right. Hope you can see it better. Then 10 to 15 and less than 10%. Less than 10%. So we have that the countries where more than 30% of the population attend church weekly is Malta, Italy, Slovakia, and Poland and Ireland. All right, high church attendance. And then the next ones between 15 and 30%, Spain, Portugal, Greece, Cyprus, okay, Slovenia, Austria, and Luxembourg. All right, and then the next ones between 10 and 15, UK, Netherlands, Belgium, Czech Republic, Hungary, Lithuania. And then the other ones are actually less than 10% of the population. So you see Finland, Sweden, Estonia, Latvia, Germany, Denmark, France. Okay, very low church attendance, weekly church attendance. Yeah, so that is right. So it is normally called the state religion instead of the country religion, but that is okay. All right. So I would like to show you a very short video or part of a video talking about how Islam became the fastest growing religion in Europe. Okay, let's see if we can see some of that. Okay. Let's see. Come on. I don't know if... Okay, well, this one doesn't want to play. That's okay. I have the link there in the lesson. I want you to look at it and see the policies, the immigration policies, and development policies that have led to the rise of Islam in Europe, and also the problems, the demographic problems between one and the other. Okay, so very, very interesting thing. Okay, so I read Annika says, I read a similar article for my country, Annika's country, I think that is Ukraine. The religion was no longer the state religion in the year 2000. So sometimes different countries change their positions, their policies, okay? And France doesn't have a state religion. Yeah. So Ashlyn says France, no, Ukraine. The flags are the same colors. Yeah, France doesn't have a state religion. The majority of the people are Roman Catholic, but there's not a state religion there. So now I would like to, if you wish, kind of shift a little bit of focus, but this is a very important article written by Elder Dallin H. Oaks, okay, one of the 12 apostles, and this is just in the ensign of this month, all right? So this is very, very current. And this was a devotional that Elder Oaks gave at BYU, Idaho, about a year ago. So really, really good and important article that I want you to study. And in this article, Elder Oaks explains what is going on really with religion and why we need to stand for religious freedom. What does it mean to accept the existence of God, and what does it mean to deny the existence of God? So this is a very, very powerful talk, something that you really need to study, and I want you to see this part. I love this part on moral relativism, where he uses the example of Korihor's philosophy and explain how Korihor was really what we would call nowadays a moral relativist. Okay. So, yeah, Annika says, at all times and in all things and in all places. The Article of Faith 11 is actually different. The Article of Faith 11 is where it states that we believe on giving the freedom of religion to everyone else. Okay, we claim that for ourselves, very importantly, but we need to also give that to everyone. So Haley says the matter of religious freedom is being pressed more and more. It's really scary. Yes, okay. I don't know exactly your situation, but one of the reasons why in my family we decided to homeschool was because we really could see that in the public school, even here in Utah, and even here with several, Mormon, good members of the church, teachers, that many times the teachers were censoring the students and driving the students not to express their religious point of view. Okay, And that is actually illegal. That is not how it should be. Yeah. Haley says, yep, that is a lot of why we decided to. That's very important. So one of the things that my wife did was she went and searched online for what is the law about religious practices in schools here in Utah. Okay, and I'm sure that you can do also that for the area, the state of where you live. And we read that together, and we found out, okay, and I think that this is very much the same for all the other states here in the United States, is that the teachers, because they are basically employees of the state, okay, basically the employees of the state of Utah or of the state of California or whatever, the teachers are the ones that should not proselytize their religious ideas, including discouraging the students from participating in religion. So if you have teachers that are atheists and they are, basically promoting that, it would be against the law. Now, the law clearly states that the students have the right to participate in religious activities or express their religious opinions anytime in school. Okay. So not necessarily that they should, proselytize, but they are fine to express their religious views. They can pray, okay? They can do those things. And so many students and teachers don't understand what are their rights and their obligations. So it is very important for us to stand for that. Okay. So Annika says the founding fathers wanted the government to protect religious freedom, but not to declare a state religion like in England. That does not mean that we should have a separation of church and state. So this phrase, separation of church and state, was not in the founding documents of our republic. Not at all. Nowhere. Okay. This was just a phrase that Thomas Jefferson used in one letter to a nephew of his. Okay. So, okay. Oh, okay. Emma quotes here the Article of Faith 11. We believe in being subjects to kings, presidents, rulers, and magistrates, in obeying, honoring, and sustaining the law. I believe this was where honoring comes in, because while we respect the council, we do not realize that it's not always for the best. Yeah. So, it especially does not mean we should be limited in our worship, even if we are at school. That is correct. Okay. Now let me go here. Let's see. I think that in one of the quizzes, in fact, let me go. Let's see if we can see this. Okay, leave student view. Let me go back to this part. Okay. One of the quizzes, there was a question that I asked. Let's see. I'm getting there. Religion foundation. Okay. And let's see the quiz statistics. This is a screen that I can see after you have taken the quiz. Okay. And see, this one was kind of a surprising item. So the question was, freedom of religion is guaranteed as an individual right by the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. Okay. everyone that answered that question said true. But this, I say, that is actually false. Why? And I'm not trying to do tricks here in the questions, really, but I want you to be kind of precise and pay attention on that. Does the First Amendment define freedom of religion as an individual right? Rodney says, you trick me. Yeah, darn. Okay, I really don't mean to trick you guys, okay? I really mean to have you think about it, okay? And so be very careful when answering the questions to pay attention to that, okay? Is freedom of religion defined as an individual right in the First Amendment? Haley says no. Okay, Rodney says no, that's correct. Yeah. What does the First Amendment do? What does the First Amendment say about freedom of religion?
It says that the federal government cannot, kind of in a way of paraphrasing, the federal government cannot support any religion, and it cannot put down any religion.
Absolutely right. That's right. Okay. Cannot support any religion specifically, and cannot stop people from expressing and doing their religion. Okay. So can you see
exercise thereof?
The free exercise thereof. That's right. And so the First Amendment is really about what the government cannot do. Okay, what the government cannot stop the citizens from doing. The reason why this is extremely important, and I want to emphasize it, is because imagine if the Constitution of the First Amendment were to define freedom of religion as an individual right. The problem with that is if the government gives you your rights, like it says, yes, you have a right to freedom of religion, then the government can also take it away. Okay? Annika says, I have not actually taken the quiz. Well, now you have a freebie here, but take the quiz, okay? That's what they are for, right? And I hope that they are actually good to help you think about these issues. I try to make the questions interesting, okay, not just cursory. Haley says that would be bad news. Yes, okay. Rodney says the freedom of religion is an inalienable right. It's one of those rights that basically are natural rights, as Jefferson defined. They are basically natural for everyone. The right of life, of property, of freedom of religion. They are God-given, not government-given. And so the First Amendment does not give us the right, okay? That is something that God gave us, and what the First Amendment says is basically saying the government cannot do this or that with religion, okay? Does that make sense? Can you see the difference there? Very, very important. And in the same vein, that is why... Go ahead, Rodney.
I was just like, that wording is so tricky, because in the First Amendment it protects our right, which is an unalienable right to religion, of worship. And so you worded it just right that my brain thought we were on the same track.
That's right, yeah. There's a similar issue with the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment is basically the right to keep and bear arms. Okay? So The Second Amendment lately in a Supreme Court decision, it was actually argued whether the right to keep and bear arms was a collective right or an individual right. The Supreme Court ruled that it was an individual right. But actually, I wish that they would have recognized that the right to protect yourself by keeping and bearing arms is a natural right. Because what I don't want is for the people to think, oh, this was a right that is given by the Second Amendment, so the government can't take it away. That is why, that is one of the things that some parts of the government are trying to do, take away the Second Amendment right, the right to keep and bear arms. All right. But again, when you read the Second Amendment, it basically says the same thing, is that Congress cannot pass rules to diminish the right of the people to keep and bear arms. So the founders recognized that that was a natural right, a right to protect yourselves. Okay. Annika says, just think, we won the Revolutionary War because of the privately owned guns. That is absolutely right. Okay. So, so the Second Amendment says the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be diminished or infringed. What is the wording there?
Infringed. Shall not be infringed.
Infringed. So infringe means shall not be stopped or diminished or tampered with. Okay. So that is again saying the government cannot take that away. Okay. It is also a God-given right. This is extremely important for us to understand, and I tell you, very few people in America and extremely few people of your age understand these things correctly. So it's very important for us to understand that these freedoms, the freedom of religion, the freedom to protect ourselves, the freedom of life, and so on, are really God-given rights, and the Constitution is there to tell the government what they cannot do. Okay, to stop the government from doing bad things. Okay, so anyways, I hope that, are there any questions?
I had a comment.
Go ahead.
So a lot of the God-given rights, their full name is, a lot of times we call them inalienable rights. Inalienable rights.
Mm-hmm.
But let me type two words here. First, now can you read those words differently?
Yes, you can. Mm-hmm. You can
read and read.
That's right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, the word inalienable, a lot of times, it before about 100 years ago, they said it inalienable. And that makes it so much more sense. It's an unalienable right now. A lien is kind of
a restriction on the property or the exercise of property. Yes,
on your land or your property because you didn't pay dues on it. And so it makes a lot more sense. I just wanted to show you guys what I found out the other day is that it's not inalienable, which is cannot be contaminated with foreign ideas, which also works, but a more precise and more explanatory is inalienable.
Yes.
That means they cannot put any liens on it.
You cannot lien.
Which our government seems to be doing.
Yeah.
They just put restrictions on your freedom of speech, your right to bear arms.
Or the freedom of religion.
So,
yeah. Very, very important points, guys. Very, very important things to remember and to understand. Words have meaning, okay? And it is important to understand the meaning of these words correctly, okay? So, thank you for your time. We have gone a little bit over, okay, so I don't want to take any more of the time, but I love teaching this lesson, and thank you for all your comments. Who would like to offer a closing prayer? Let's see, Sabrina, do you have a... Oh, thank you, Rodney, for typing that in. Okay. Do you have a mic there? Would you like to offer the prayer? Or, yeah, let's see. Sabrina, are you there? Haley, do you have a mic? Annika says, okay. Okay, Haley, would you like to offer the prayer? Annika says, the founding fathers knew and understood that there are natural rights, laws that man cannot change. Just because a government rules that there is no gravity does not take away gravity. That's right. Okay. Haley, let's go ahead with a closing prayer, please.
All right. Our dear, kind, and gracious Father in heaven, we're so grateful for the opportunity we've come here to learn about different religions, and we're grateful for the things we have learned today and the definitions we have learned, and please bless us as we go throughout the rest of our week, and that we will be able to stand as a witness of Thee and be able to share what we know with other people, and please bless those that could not come today, that they will be able to catch up and to learn the things they need to. And we say these things humbly in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very, very much. Thank you, guys. Okay.